Hi, I'm Corinne and we're here at Dee's today and we're going to learn how to paint plaid. So I'm going to start with this base coated bunny and I'm going to use 4 different colors to make him look kind of like a plaid print. So for this project you're going to need a couple different brushes. My favorite one is a 1.5 inch wide brush. And I've got 4 different colors here. So I've got my light color, which I've already painted for my base coat, and then I've got 2 darker colors, and then I've got just a fun color that we're going to use afterwards to actually create some smaller, thinner lines on our plaid. So here I've done a little swatch to kind of find what colors that I wanted to use for this. I loved my base coat, I liked the second color, but I experimented with a couple different colors and I felt like this one was too dark. So you can always do this first before you actually paint on your project. So in the end I went with this color, and then this is going to be the color that's going to be my accent. So we're going to start with our second color. You're going to need quite a bit of it. And we're going to use the 1.5 inch wide brush, and we're going to coat the tip of the brush, and we're just going to start anywhere on this project and create a line. Right now I'm just kind of blocking everything in like that. Doesn't have to be perfect because we can always go back and kind of take the edge of the brush and just fix our edges up just a little bit, and I'm not worried about these little excess pieces that come out. I just want it to be kind of straight, but using the width of the brush to make your line makes the same size line every time. So now that I've got a starting point, I'm going to go about a brush widths apart, and I'm going to start another line. Same deal. I'm just kind of blocking it in first. Ignore the edges. And now that I've got it blocked in, I'm going to go back and add some more color. Kind of straighten my edges up a little bit with the edge of the brush. And we're kind of trying to make it look similar to fabric. So if your edges aren't 100% perfect, it actually kind of adds to that look. And then just fill everything in. Okay, so here's another one, about a brush widths apart. And you can get different types of plaids. You know, you can go and get some fabric swatches of ribbon and use those as your inspiration. You can use different types of plaids, get a little more complex by using different size brushes and layering it differently. So this one's harder because I've got a gap here, so I'm kind of eyeballing that line there. Or you can again just come down here and use the brush width. There. So I've got all of my vertical lines for my bunny, and now I'm going to do my horizontal lines. So again, I'm going to get my paint on the brush, start anywhere I want, and make a brush line, and then go back and fill it in. Now normally you're going to want to let each of these coats kind of dry a little bit in between, so that your colors don't mix together. But sometimes I'll actually just go over top of the wet paint and make the colors mix together a little bit on purpose. It just kind of adds to that look of the plaid, like it all goes together. Like I said, you're going to need quite a bit of paint for this. I'm already ready for some more. the more paint you have on your brush, the easier this is going to be on you. If you have just a tiny bit of paint on the brush, you're going to have a little bit of trouble getting this to be nice and smooth. So this is what that's going to look like. If you have just a little bit of paint on the brush, and I just realized here, sometimes you'll notice as you go back, so we need to finish that line there. So right now I just have a little bit of paint on the brush. See how it doesn't cover as well? And then after you get all that on there, it does help to kind of smooth it out again just by going over it once more. So let me show you here about how much paint I have on the brush. So it's kind of, you know, it's not super thick, but it's kind of thick. All right, so we're going to go a brush width over. It's hard when you get on these edges, so sometimes after you kind of establish where that line needs to be, if you get it started, then you can come down here and finish. All right, so we're almost there. We've got one more line to do. And then we'll start with our cross sections. So this last one's kind of easy because I'm right at the end, so all I have to do is establish one line and then paint the rest of it. And you'll notice not all of my lines are perfect. I've got some that are a little bit wavy. You know, if it's really wavy, I'll go and fix it, but I'm not too concerned as long as you look at the overall picture and it seems, you know, pretty even. So then I'm going to take another brush, same width, and again, this is where you would, you know, most of the time you're going to want to let this paint dry before you do the next section. I'm just going to go ahead with my next darkest color. We're going to coat the brush with some of that paint, and we're going to go in and start at the corner of each little cross section. Notice how I'm using the corner of the brush to create the corner of the paint, or the corner of the little plaid square, like that. And we're going to do that to every single one of these little squares. Start the corner of your brush at the corner of the cross section between the second color of paint stripes, like that. Okay. So I'll go ahead and paint. All of your cross sections painted with the next darker color. Then you may have to go back and touch up a couple places. I did go out of my lines in a couple places, and so I'm just taking that color and touching up in just a couple places. Again, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. And then we're going to go to our next color, which is our accent. I am using this color here. And I'm going to use a very small brush for this one. This one here. And I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add some lines actually over top of my two lighter colors. And we're just going to use the width of the brush. Start anywhere you want. And I always like to do all of my vertical lines first and then all of my horizontal lines. It just kind of keeps me from accidentally putting a line where it doesn't need to be. So on this, I'm only going to put this line on one side of the two of this light medium color here. So you can kind of use it as, you know, think about it as about a brush width away from that edge there to kind of keep you on track. And as you can see, my line's not perfect. Like that. We're going to do all of these this way. So I'm just going to kind of block my lines in, and then I'll go back and do them. So I'm going to do this one next. Alright, so that's really all I'm going to have going vertically. Horizontally, I'm going to pick either top or bottom. Let's go with bottom, so we can have a line here. I'm going to have a line there, 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 and then one more down here. So then that kind of helps you, because once you kind of get started painting, sometimes you can forget what you're doing because you're so into your painting. So that kind of gives you a guideline, so you know exactly where that paint's going to go, and then you can go back and use the width of your brush to give you that decently uniform line. Don't stress too much. If you get a little further away, it looks like the fabric maker just made a little bit of a mistake, and that's okay. But remember, it's paint. So if you absolutely hate one section of it, you can just touch it up with your other colors. Like for me, I don't like that. I'm going to go back and fix that here in a minute. Okay, so we're going to do all of this, and then we're going to come back and do an outline and maybe a monogram. Okay, so we've got all of our plaid completely finished. There's lots of things you can do with this, but I'm going to be kind of simple, and we're going to add an outline, and then I'm going to give him a letter, a monogram in the middle. So start anywhere, and on this one, I'm going to start with a line and then draw some cute little loops, maybe a couple dots, almost like little bunny ears for our bunny. And again, we're not establishing any kind of perfect pattern here. We're just going along. Whenever you can't go any further, just stop and start a new line. Okay, so he's got a cute little outline, and now I'm going to write a monogram on here. I'm doing this with a black acrylic paint pen. The acrylic works best on top of the acrylic paint. You can also have a vinyl letter on here, and we do cut vinyl letters for you here at Dee's. So I'm just going to pick a random letter. We're going to do G. So I've got my letter on there, but now I need to make it thicker so you can actually see it. So I'm going to go back and fill this guy in. If you want to write it, but you don't have the best handwriting, you can go online, print off a letter that you like, and use it as your guideline and just trace it. So you can see I'm just making it wider as I go along, and then fill it in just like I do with the paint. You definitely want to make sure that your paint is 100% dry before you start this process. So I recommend letting it dry overnight before you get started on it. I'm just exaggerating my lines here. If you make a mistake, just make it a little wider. Okay, and just for fun, and you don't have to do this, I'm going to go back and add some little dots, some little flourishes around it. Just to make it kind of cute. Just add something fun to it. And there we have our plaid bunny.